This is Millennial Money Mindset. If you want the fruits, you need the roots. This is Millennial Money Mindset. If you want the fruits, you need the roots. Thanks so much for joining us. This is 10 of the best books of all time. So I've boiled it down to 10 books of all time. What I'm going to do, it's quite tricky to get the 10 best books of all time. So I'm going to break it into two. I'm going to go 10 books today, and then we're going to do another 10 books another time. So these are 10 books to read in your 20s. So if you're a millennial and you're not sure what books to read, these are the ones. These are the ones going to change your life. We've got some absolute classics that are coming up. So stay right to the end. We're going to reveal these 10 books. And these are books that are actually going to change your life. So these are non-fiction books. These are personal development books. These are business books. These are personal finance books. And these are the books that if you're going down a certain path in life, one of these books, reading this is going to take you off on a whole nother trajectory. These are going to improve your life for the better. So these are 10 books that have actually changed my life. So I wouldn't be a different person without these books. So yeah, these are one of the reasons why books are so important, and why myself have started an education company called Money Tips, tax, investment, property, pension, savings. We educate, empower, and money coach better investing. And we want to make more money give more money into your pocket, more time in your day, and more happiness in your life. And if that sounds good, then subscribe to Millennial Money Mindset YouTube channel. If you're listening to on podcasts, subscribe to the podcast. If you're listening to this on TikTok, then we're Money Tips on TikTok. Subscribe, please like, please subscribe, please tell a friend, because it really helps us out. We're a startup. We believe in better education, and we're independent, we're impartial, and we're basically free to give our own opinions. So there's lots of other people who are restricted. I used to be a financial advisor. I couldn't give you the information that I can give you today, because I could only give advice on the certain products that we have. So we're impartials and we're independent. We can talk about any platform that's right for you. And that's why we're different. We educate, empower, and guide better investing. So we don't give specific advice. We empower you to make your own decisions with money, and we can save you thousands of pounds compared to a financial advisor because of this. So let's get right through this. So I'm excited to talk about we're going to do 10 books today. We're going to do 10 books another time, because I literally couldn't fit any more books in today. So let's go into it. So what are your favorite books before we start? Write in the comments any books that have changed your life, any books that have changed your thinking, or any books that have improved your life for the better. So let's go right through this. So number one, start with why. So we have to start with why. So this is almost like a cliche. I felt almost I shouldn't include this book because I held off reading this book for so long. So it's Simon Sinek, and I watched his TED Talk. You might have seen him on YouTube. You might have seen him on social media, and it was almost a walking cliche about Simon Sinek. And he's also, so this is why I was like, I can't put this book in. And I held off reading this book for so long. Start with why, because I kind of thought, why? What more could I learn about this book? But I was pleasantly surprised. I decided to buy it, and it gives practical examples. He talks about the Wright brothers, where they built the first aeroplane. He talks about Apple, the technology company Apple, and they changed conventional thinking. And he talks about Martin Luther King as well, and his I Have a Dream speech. And essentially, if you understand your why, then any how is possible. And that was quite impactful for me. And basically essentially, it doesn't matter what your how is. If you understand your why, then it kind of gives you a step in the right direction. You can go in the right direction once you understand why you're doing it. What are you doing in your life? And it comes down to, we're wired as humans. So we have an emotional kind of part in our brain which has to kind of link our why. We have to actually think we find our why first before we go to kind of the what and then the how. So it's actually ingrained in us as humans to kind of look at the why first of all. So if you coming back to Apple, they change conventional thinking, and they change kind of technology for the better. If you look at the iPhone, I'm recording this YouTube live, this TikTok live on an iPhone, and they boiled it down to one button. Only got one button on the front, and so it kind of changed how we think about things and changed about kind of clunky technology. And he explains this in his book really well. So he uses kind of good kind of examples. It's a really good starter book. If you've never read any non-fiction before, or any kind of business books or kind of personal development books, this is a really good book to start. So start with why. It's really simple. It's a simple book to read. He talks about another one is the kind of the image that comes to me is he talks about the golden circle, and your why is at the center. If you ever seen his TED Talks, he talks about your why at the center, then your kind of your what, and then your how. And then, so that was kind of quite impactful for me. So number one of the best books in your 20s you can read in your 20s, Start With Why by Simon Sinek. So number two is Donut Economics. And I'm a huge fan of this book, Donut Economics. And it's written by Kate Raworth. And I'm kind of a big fan of Kate Raworth. I've gone to see her speak. I went to seen her, a few of her lectures in Oxford University. I saw her speak there. And I also, my company Money Tips, we used to be located in Oxford in a small little startup kind of hub. And her company, which is built now, is Donut Economics. It's called Deal. Is it Donut Economics Action Labs, and they're all based there as well. I didn't actually see her there, but it was quite a big building. But yeah, they were based there as well, so it was quite cool to be in the same building as one of my favorite books. So Donut Economics. So what is this all about? Essentially, it's talking about how you can change the world for the better. So I don't know if you can see that there. It's essentially like think of the world like a donut, and you've got your ecological ceiling on the outside, and then you've got your kind of social foundation on the inside. And essentially, we are kind of going through an environmental crisis at the moment where we're consuming too much of natural resources. We're producing too much CO2, which is causing global warming. And the donut is a solution to these kind of ecological problems. And the number one kind of factor she talks about is changing GDP, gross domestic product, to something more meaningful. So essentially changing gross domestic product, which is how we measure how successful we are economically. So companies and countries basically look at their GDP, how much have you produced, and it is a kind of outdated model that we use today. And I actually talk about this in my book, Millennial Money Mindset. If you want the fruits, you need the roots. About actually one of the key ways to change the world is to change the measure. If we start measuring things differently, then we can actually change the world for the better. We're not going to. So, for instance, for using GDP, if you went out and had a car crash, that would obviously be devastating for you and your family. Your car would be written off, but that would be a positive thing for GDP, because you'd have to get your car, you'd have to buy a new repair, you'd have to either repair your car or get a new car. You would go to the hospital and you'd have whiplash or something, and then that you'd have to pay for doctors, you have to pay for, even if you're an NHS, that's still money being spent. And essentially this is a bad thing for the world in general, having a GDP. It's a really bad measure. It was the economist who came out with this originally was brilliant. It was a very clever way of measuring things, but it came out during World War I or II, I think it was. And essentially it was basically measuring how many tanks you could produce. And yeah, it's not a good measure, GDP. So that's Donut Economics, which is, yeah, as I said, it's a great book by Kate Raworth. You can see the donut there, which is essentially how to measure things differently. It talks about is growth killing our planet. So this kind of endless growth model that we're following at the moment is actually killing the planet. We're producing more, we're consuming more, and actually using up the Earth's natural resources. This is not a good thing. And this is what Kate Raworth talks in her book, Donut Economics, which is the 10 best books that you should be reading in your 20s. And also saying, like, look to nature when you're talking about economics. This book makes economics seems quite a scary topic, especially if you've never studied it. I remember studying it at university. I didn't really get it until kind of later in life when I studied it when I worked in shipping, and I studied my chartered shipbroking qualifications. So economics can be quite a scary topic, but she breaks it down really well and really easily in her book. And she talks about economics is just what the word economics actually comes from household. It's Greek for household. And just think of it like your household bills. Money comes in, you spend money and from your income, and then you spend money and the money goes out. And the world economics just works the same way. Money comes in, money comes out. She breaks it down really easily. Highly recommend Donut Economics. And it was really influential for my own book, Millennial Money Mindset. If you want the fruits, you need the roots. So book number 3 of the 10 best books of you should be reading in your 20s. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And this is almost a cliche because Rich Dad, Poor Dad comes on every list, every good list, I should say. And I've been on a number of forums, and a lot of people say they don't get why Donut Economics is so good, or why Rich Dad, Poor Dad is so good. And they don't really think it's really relevant anymore. And I think that's because it was written in 1997. I should say this is a Rich Dad, Poor Dad book, but it's not the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. I actually gave that away. I quite often give books away because I'm a massive reader, and once I've read a book, I quite often give books to clients. But Rich Dad, Poor Dad, there's loads of books. That's another book written by him, Retire Young, Retire Rich, or Real Estate Riches. There's loads of Rich Dad, Poor Dad books. I've read most of them. I've even been to some of his seminars. I'm a big Robert Kiyosaki fan. I would actually even go as far as saying he should get a Nobel Prize for the work he's done, because basically we're in a different world than we were in 1997. In those days, it was quite normal to the model would be go to school, get good grades, go to university, get a good job, get a mortgage, then basically work all your life, and then retire at 65, and then basically sit around until you die. And that was the model that we followed. And basically Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or Robert Kiyosaki said, no, actually, that's a better model. We can actually create assets, like buy housing, put money into the stock market, create your own business. And essentially this is a better way to live or to become rich. And when you become rich, then you have more security, you have more freedom, you have more options to do what you want to do in life. And this is essentially what Robert Kiyosaki talks about in not just Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but in all his books like this one here. So another reason why Rich Dad, Poor Dad is so good is because he talks in stories. So the whole book is a story. So it's him as a kid, and essentially he has a rich dad who owns a business, and he has a poor dad who is a teacher. And essentially he trades his time for money and never becomes financially free. He works till he's 50, 60 years old, but then he retires. And essentially what Robert Kiyosaki does, he essentially gives this allegory or a kind of analogy of actually what you can do. It may be a bit out of date now. It was written in 1997. A lot of the stuff he talks about is buying property. And at the moment in London, property prices are out of reach for most people, especially most millennials. So it's quite tricky to do what he did. He would used to buy up loads of properties when property was cheap. But today that's tricky to do because house prices are so expensive, and you can't borrow to buy numerous properties like what he suggested in his early books. So essentially the one key takeaway as well is assets are something that puts money into your pocket, whereas liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. So if you're going to take away one aspect from this book, is assets put something into your pocket, whereas a liability takes money out of your pocket. So number 4 of the books that every 20-year-old should read, 10 books of your 20s, is The Science of Getting Rich. And I love this book. This is by Wallace Wattles, and I published this book myself. So Money Tips is a publisher, and we acquire rights to books. And one of the books we acquired was The Science of Getting Rich. So we'll put this in the link below, but I highly recommend it. This is kind of a blast into to change your money mindset. It's a bit woo-woo, it's a bit out there, but it's highly recommend it. It's a step-by-step guide to riches, and he talks a lot about kind of a law of attraction as well. So the book called The Secret was based, or was heavily influenced by this book by Wallace Wattles, and that went on to sell tens of millions of copies. But the thing that The Secret missed out, or the law of attraction misses out, is action. So I think one of the chapters of the book is action. I can't remember what chapter it is, I was going to look there. But essentially it's not about kind of thinking, sitting in your room thinking of a mansion and a mansion's going to magically appear outside your house. It's actually going out into the world and taking action. And he talks a lot about taking action collaboratively and not competitively. So he talks about finding areas where you could have your niche, finding kind of work where fits your personality or fits your skills, and essentially do this consistently every day. And this is essentially how you can become rich. Science of Getting Rich, highly recommend it. As I said, this is a money tips book. So you can, if you're going to buy this book, buy this version. It's also got a bonus section of the science of being well. And it's also, I write the introduction to this book as well, The Science of Getting Rich. So highly recommend that. So number 5 is Millennial Money Mindset. So this is my book written by Neil Doig. So I wrote this book in 2018. It was shortlisted by the Financial Times Writing Prize, and it was an Amazon bestseller. So essentially the reason why I wrote this book, I wanted to condense all the best books and create one ultimate investing book, and to give a 5-step method to getting better with money, a 5-step method to investing. And each chapter is like a story or analogies, loads of diagrams to make it real simple, easy, and achievable. And essentially it's the ultimate investing guide. So if you are thinking, I've got some savings, I want to invest, even if you don't have any savings and you think, actually, I need to get better with my money, then this is the perfect book. You can even give it as a present to a friend, a family member, or a work colleague. And every book bought, we plant a tree on your behalf. So you can feel good that you're doing your part for the environmental crisis that we're all facing today. So Millennial Money Mindset. I was a financial advisor charging tens of thousands of pounds for the same information, and I didn't feel comfortable helping high net worth individuals save more tax. I thought, how many hospital beds could that provide? How many school books could that provide? How many library books could that provide? So essentially I left that job as a financial advisor and created my own money coaching company. So we're different, we educate and empower and coach better investing rather than giving specific advice. And by doing that, we can save tens of thousands of pounds over your lifetime. So each chapter is a story and analogy to make things simple, easy, and achievable. And it gets quite deep and meaningful. Halfway through, I actually discovered life is not just about money. It's actually about happiness and becoming a better version of yourself and finding your meaning in life. So at the end of the book, we give the steps to actually, how do you find meaning in life? And there's 4 steps to this, and there's like 4 circles that you look for, and it's the bullseye essentially is where you can make the greatest impact or make the greatest contribution in life. So Millennial Money Mindset, if you want the fruits, you need the roots. Highly recommend getting that today. It's on Amazon in print, Kindle, or Audible version. Get an audiobook. So I'm going to put a link down below to an Audible 30-day free trial. So you can pick that up as a free trial. Put it in, listen as you're commuting to work. In the car, you can listen to it while driving around in traffic. Actually make use of that time. Or if you're cooking, you can listen to an audiobook as you cook and actually learn while you cook. So highly recommend this. This is, as I said, these books are books that are going to impact your life. They're going to change your life. You're going to go in one direction, read this book, and you're going to get actually off into a better direction. So this is why I wrote this book, Millennial Money Mindset. If you want the fruits, you need the roots. Get your copy today. So number 6 of the best books you should be reading in your 20s. We've got the 4-hour work week. So by Tim Ferriss, huge fan of this. Have you heard of this book? Write in your comments. Please like, please subscribe, please tell a friend. So any other books that we haven't heard yet, write in the comments your favorite books that you've read recently or over your lifetime. What else would you put into this book? 4-Hour Workweek, great book. Essentially, it's about automating your time and getting more out of life. He breaks it down into 4 steps. So he uses the analogy, the acronym DEAL. So DEAL, which is actually define what you want out of life. What do you want? What's going to make you happy? And he talks a lot about happiness as well in this book. He talks about chasing excitement. Don't have the kind of conformity that you kind of follow in the 9-to-5 rat race. It's not the answer to everything. So he talks about define what do you actually want out of life, what makes you happy. And so he talks about that, Tim Ferriss. And he says eliminate. So he talks about eliminate everything in your workload. So if you're doing tasks that are not actually getting to you getting kind of further on in your job, then eliminate that. You can either delegate that or essentially getting rid of it. Don't do kind of meaningless tasks just because it's there, just because it's on a checklist to do. Get rid of it, eliminate it, and actually focus on what's going to make you happy, or focus on what's going to make you money, or focus on kind of getting further, what's going to get you success in life. So the next one is automate. So once you find out what the important things are, then you can automate things. So I'm a business owner myself. I automate a lot of my tasks, so I don't have to do it myself. A lot of the things that I can go away on holiday now and not have to worry about a lot of social media automating. I can delegate a lot of things. I have some people work for me as well. I use a number of employers and they work for me, and they essentially can reduce the time I'm spending on kind of meaningless tasks and focus on more higher value tasks. And that's going to essentially push my business along, make me more money, and help more people as well. So it's going to actually, if I can focus on higher value tasks, then and actually focus on kind of one-to-one clients, or focus on people actually helping them solve their problems, then this is going to actually make it's kind of a win-win-win solution where everyone wins, because we're actually getting rid of the kind of the stuff that's not valuable anymore. And the final L, so DEAL, is this in this acronym is liberation. And this is talk about kind of freedom, how you essentially, once you know what you want out of life, and once you have everything automated or eliminated, then it gives you freedom to actually kind of focus on what you want out of life. In this book, he talks about he became a tango champion, which is like a dancing champion, because he essentially sold his business for, I think, millions, and it meant it freed up his time to go and do what he wanted in life. It wasn't karate, but he did some kind of martial arts as well. And it kind of, in Japan, I think it was, and this meant he could kind of free up his time to do kind of bigger and better things and kind of get more out of life. He's actually also got a podcast, Tim Ferriss. Podcast is really good as well if you want to listen to that. Podcast is good. And highly recommend the 4-Hour Workweek. So any other books? Have you read the 4-Hour Workweek? Please like, please subscribe, please tell a friend. So this is number 6 in the top 10 books that you should read in your 20s that are going to change your life. So number 7, we're reaching the end. Any ones that you would recommend? So 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This cover looks really a bit creepy and a bit weird, but I highly recommend this book. It's super amazing. I even think it's so good, I think they should teach it in schools. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it's also got some diagrams in it. So that's a really good diagram. It's so old, this book. I've read this so many times that the pages are falling out, believe it or not. But yeah, there's a really cool diagram. He talks about moving from dependence to independence to interdependence. And he talks about these are different 7 habits. It gives you kind of a framework to follow. So what are the 7 habits of highly effective people? What are the habits you should be following to get success in life? So number 1 is be proactive. Don't just sit back, as we talked about previously. Like, don't just sit in your house and imagine that there's going to be a mansion going to be built in your garden. That's not going to happen. You've actually got to go out into the world and actually do the work. You've actually got to be proactive, actually go out there and actually make things happen. So number 1 is be proactive. So number 2 is begin with the end in mind. So actually decide, what do you want? What do you want from life? What he uses the story of, which is a bit morbid, but he says, imagine you're at your funeral. Imagine you die and people are at your funeral, which sounds really morbid and a bit bleak, but it kind of gives you a vision into the future, where it's saying, actually, what are gonna people say about you and your life, the way you live? And would you like that? Would you like, imagine your funeral was tomorrow and people say stuff about you. What are they going to say about you? And if you don't like that, you have the opportunity today to change that. You can go out into the world and change this thing. So he says, actually, begin with the end in mind. Think about what would happen at the end of your life. And then you can actually work backwards and actually think, actually, what would you do today to change things, to get to the point where people are talking good things about you at your funeral, where I actually said, yeah, he lived a great life. He did help loads of people, and he lived every life, every day to the max. So yeah, that was really impactful for me. The next habit, the 7 habits of highly effective people, is put first things first. So then what do you do? Imagine you start with the end in mind, and what do you do today? Put first things first. What are the important things? He uses this really interesting, what he called, I think he called it the Eisenhower matrix. And it's got the, think of it like a square. It's got important and urgent. So important and not important, urgent and not urgent. So what you should be doing every day is essentially focusing on the important things and then the urgent things, and then getting those done first of all. But what we tend to do is focus on the not important things and the non-urgent things, like social media. Like, it's so easy to get caught up on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. It's quite difficult to get caught up, and it's actually not going to improve your life. But he talks, actually focus on the important things and the urgent things, and that's going to get you to success in your life. So the next habit of highly effective people is win-win. Think win-win. So this might be for a customer that is going to win. They're going to improve their life, but you win as well because the customer pays you, and you both win because you get value from that exchange. And think in all certain areas of life, think win-win. How can you benefit? Also, how can the other person that you're working with benefit as well? So it's not about take. You're not trying to take from people. You're trying to make that you're going to benefit and they benefit as well. And it's not about kind of giving all your services away and the other person benefits, but then you lose. It's got to be a win-win solution. So you look for those win-win solutions, and that's essentially the habit 5. And then habit 6 is be understood. Understand and be understood. So first of all, understand what the other person wants, or before you kind of launch into your opinions or solutions or kind of what you want out of life, understand first. Actually understand from the other point of view. See it from their shoes, and then understand, then be understood. Then number 6 is synergize, and this is a bit like, synergize is quite a complicated word. We might not know what it means, but essentially think of it like a team working together. It's going to create more than the individual parts. If you've got a team at work, for instance, you might have a marketing person, you might have someone who's really good at accounts, and then you might have someone in sales. So each of those 3 people have different strengths, and essentially coming together, they kind of help each person's weakness, but then they kind of benefit from the strengths. So that's synergizing. That's coming together, working as a team, and essentially that team works better than the individual parts. That's number 6, synergize. Number 7 is sharpen the saw. So he uses the analogy of going out into the woods and if you want to cut down a tree, cutting down a tree, and then you realize you've got a blunt saw, and then to just keep sawing, you're not going to get very far because that's a blunt saw. It's not going to cut the tree down. He says, take 5 minutes to sharpen the saw, and then cut the tree down, because you're going to actually get done quicker if you sharpen the saw and then cut the tree down, rather than just continuing to cut the tree with a blunt saw. So with this analogy is like, it's like education. People always say, I don't have the time for education. But picking up one of these books, any of these 10 books, This is like sharpening the saw. If you take time, read these books, take out the key nuggets of information and apply those nuggets to your life, you're going to be much sharper. You're going to actually improve your job. You're going to actually improve your success in life. You're going to actually be better at investing. If you pick up Millennial Money Mindset and learn how to invest, learn from the best, learn from the key principles, you're going to be much more successful in 10 years from following these key principles than trying to figure it all out yourself, making mistakes, or going to a financial advisor and you'll pay huge fees that's going to erode your gains. Sharpen the saw is actually getting educated and actually taking those key information and actually improving your life. That's going to be, it might take time now, but it's going to save you time in the future. So they're the 7 habits of highly effective people. So let's run through those again. So be proactive, begin with the end in mind. First things first, win-win solutions, understand, then be understood, synergize, and then sharpen the saw. Any of those that you resonate with you, any of those that you think, actually, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, any of those that you want to apply today. So that, as I said, number 7 is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Recommend everyone read this book because it's a classic. It's a classic. It looks a weird front cover, but yeah, highly recommend it. Stephen Covey it's a really this book. I can't tell you how much value this single book. How much does it cost? I think I might have even paid, like, it says like $15.99, but I don't think I paid that much. But it's, as I said, I've kind of read it and it's kind of falling apart. I've read it so much. And it was quite influential for my own book, Millennial Money Mindset. I've kind of sprinkled some of the habits into the books. So if you don't want to read this book, just pick up Millennial Money Mindset and you'll find all the habits in that book as well. So number eight. So number 8 is the magic of thinking big. This is huge. Another one where you might think the front cover is a bit cheesy. All the magic of thinking happen big. You might think it's a bit cheesy, but I read this book almost every year just because it is a real mindset change. And it kind of, if you believe you can succeed, then you can. And it gives me kind of a kick up the bum to every start of the year to actually think, actually, let's focus on my business. Let's do better than I did the year before. I think it turn defeat into victory, think and dream creatively, build confidence and destroy fear. So yeah, I highly recommend this book. I really liked it. It is definitely one of my top 10 books of all time. It kind of gives you a positive mindset. It is, believe you can and you will. So yeah, highly recommend this book. It's definitely your top 10 books of all. These are the top 10 books to read in your 20s. This is another book. It's really easy to read, use really good examples. So yeah, anyone read this? Please like. If you have, anyone think of any other books? That's number 8. So number 9 is the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. This is a bit of a philosophy book, maybe even religious book. I'm not really from a religious background, but yeah, this book is absolutely amazing. Kind of blew my mind when I read this. It's a tiny, it's like almost like a pamphlet, but I can't remember. I don't know what age of this book, but it goes back literally hundreds of years. I'm not sure the age of this book actually. It's like 1000 BC. There you go, 1000 from around 1000 BC. So imagine that. So basically, it's one of the best thinkers in China. The two kind of big kind of thought. I don't want to say religious because it's not really religious, but it's like essentially the two big thinkers in China are Confucius and Lao Tzu. So Confucius is very much like follow the rules, do things as a set pattern, have kind of routines and processes, whereas Lao Tzu is like flow like a river, like go with the flow. He talks about the Tao as in like everything around you is a Tao. It's a bit deep and meaningful, but I pick up this book every year and it's something new that I kind of would read, and it didn't really it's a new different kind of take on this work. So highly recommend the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. The story goes that basically Lao Tzu was a government worker, and he was off to the mountains to retire, and basically got stopped at the border, and he was saying, you can't leave because you've got loads of knowledge. right, what would you recommend before you retire, or what would you kind of talk about before you retire? So he was off on a water buffalo off to the mountains, and he got stopped by this government official. So he's like, okay, fine, I'll stop over tonight, write this book before I go on my way tomorrow and retire. And that's, as the story goes, he wrote the Tao Te Ching, and it's kind of a masterpiece of literature. It's, yeah, as every time I pick this up, there's something new that I hadn't kind of discovered. It'd be my desert island disc. If I got kind of beached on a desert island, I would take this book, because every time you read it, it kind of, yeah, you pick up something new. It's very philosophical. It kind of uses analogies, and I love that kind of symbolism, analogies, that kind of thing. So yeah, has anyone read that book, Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu? Highly recommend it. And that's number 9. Everyone should read in the night. You could probably read this book in like, I don't know, like 20 minutes, or maybe even like an afternoon. Like, but then you can keep going back to it over and over again. So that's number 9. And finally, number 10, every book that you should read, or a book that you should read in your 20s. So just pick one book, even one book. I'll put a link to all the books below. If you are going to buy these books, please go through my link. I get a small bit of change, pocket change. It takes the money out of these big corporations' pocket into small business owners like myself. Any small contribution really helps my business and means that I can reinvest it into more equipment and better research, and ultimately give you more value. So number 10 is The Automatic Millionaire by David Batch. And this is such a simple book. It's such a simple book, but it's one of those things that it's so simple, but lots of people aren't doing it. So the idea behind this book is essentially automate your investing. So as soon as you get paid, pay yourself first, and set up an automated payment process. So every month, a small amount goes off into an investment account, or off into a savings account or a trading account. And if you do that, you don't have to think or worry or stress about investing ever again. You can sit back and relax and not even have to do anything. You could even just track the market. It's so easy. It's such a simple idea, but it's so effective. And a lot of that I talk about in my book, Millennial Money Mindset. And this book was quite influential in my book, Millennial Money Mindset, because it's such a simple concept. He also talks about the latte factor. So if you're a millennial, you've probably heard about people talking about stop buying coffees and put that money into savings instead. The original concept of that came from this book, The Automatic Millionaire. And essentially it's so simple that essentially that's all it is. Just put a few dollars every month into a investing vehicle or investing platform, investing account. And then in a few 10, 20 years time, you'll be a millionaire. It's that simple. But so many people I speak to aren't doing this. I speak to so many people like, what are you saving? No, they spend money on, TVs, kind of lavish lifestyles, kind of the new trainers, rather than actually putting money away for your future. And yeah, it's so obvious, but so many people aren't doing it. But yeah, I understand cost of living crisis is increasing. It's harder and harder and harder to do this. But the secret is pay yourself first before any other bills get taken away. So yeah, it's such a simple idea. But if someone's watching here and you're in your 20s, if you can do this today, you can literally do it. It will take you like half an hour to set up an investment account and then automate it. Do this now, and you'll thank me in like 20 years time. You'll have the amount, especially with compound interest, the amount that's going to increase over time. It's going to be insane. That just small changes over small incremental payments every month, and with that compound interest, it's going to build up over time. So that's the 10. So let's go through them again. So The Automatic Millionaire by David Batch, the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. What was your favorite? Write in the comments what your favorite was. The Magic of Thinking Big by, I didn't say the name, David Schwartz. That's a pretty good book. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Another great book. 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. Automating Your Time. actually only working 4-hour days, 4-hour work week. Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. Super book, amazing book. Now, I was so impressed by it, I've published it myself. My Money Tips. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Classic book. As I said, the original Rich Dad, Poor Dad, not this book. This is Rich Dad Prophecy. But yeah, still pretty good book, that one. Donut Economics by Kate Raworth, setting up a change from GDP to the donut model. Simon Sinek, Start With Why. And of course, lastly but not least, Millennial Money Mindset. If you want the fruits, you need the roots. My book. Maybe I'm biased, but I think this is the best book of them all. Essentially, I boiled everything down into the ultimate investing book, and that's what Millennial Money Mindset was. So just buy one book from that list could change your life. You can even go on audiobook. I'll put a link to the audiobook, set up a 30-day free trial, listen to it while you're driving, listen to it while you're cooking, listen to it while you're commuting. And these are going to change, simple books are going to change your life. So that's been the 10 books that 20-year-olds should read. Which one was your favorite? Please like or comment below. Yeah, any others you'd add to it? I want to do a second video because there were so many other books I couldn't fit into this video. The 10, I'm going to do another 10, I think. So would that be useful? Please, yeah, comment below. And yeah, my name's Neil Doig. Hopefully this has been useful. This is Millennial Money Mindset. If you want the fruits, you need the roots. Please like, please subscribe, please tell a friend about this channel. I am the founder of Money Tips. My name's Neil Doig, founder of Money Tips. We are different. We educate, empower, and coach better investing without charging high fees. So we empower you to make your own decisions with monies, so you don't have to pay for expensive financial advisor fees. Thank you so much. Please like, please subscribe, and please tell a friend about this channel. Thanks again.